In Kali Linux, like Apache, the MySQL is installed by default too, so you don't need to install MySQL in here. But if you want to install it, just say apt-get install MySQL or apt-get install MySQL server, and you could see that it would be installed. But now in here that we have MySQL installed, the first thing that we need to do, like the Apache, we need to start the MySQL. So what I'm going to do in this lecture is that before we get into the interactions between the MySQL and websites and how we could access the MySQL database in a programming language like PHP, and in designing the websites, what we are going to do is to just be more comfortable with different codes in the MySQL language and also in the MySQL database. So in here, because we don't have access to a GUI, or we don't want to have access into GUI, we need to do everything in the terminal and by coding. So you need to be more familiar with the codes and syntaxes. So in here, first of all, we need to start MySQL. So we say service MySQL and then start. Now MySQL service would be started, and like Apache, you could check if it is running or not by just saying service MySQL and then a status in here, and if you hit enter, you see it says active running. Now press Q to quit, and in here we say MySQL-U for username. My username is currently root, and -p for the password. I haven't assigned any password for the username root, so I leave it blank and hit enter. And for enter password again, we hit enter again. Now the terminal has changed to MariaDB in here, which we could enter our codes. So what you are going to do is first to see all the databases or tables. We say show database. The good thing about the MySQL syntaxes is that it almost is like the common English language. So we say show databases and then a semicolon in here. It would show us all the databases. We just hit enter. You see currently I have these 4 databases, but I would want to create another database named test1. So in order for us to create database, again just say create database, and in here the name of it, which I want to be test1. Now hit enter. It says query OK, 1 row affected. Now we say show databases again. As you see, now test1 has been created. Now we want to enter this database. So in here we say use test1 and then we hit enter. Database change. As you see, now it has been affected like this. In here it says MariaDB none, but in here MariaDB test1. It means that we have entered the test1 database. It's exactly like the Excel. For example, in here we say file and then we create a new file. We name it something. Right now you see book1 is the name of this table, and then we have different sheets. Every one of these sheets would be a different table or again a database, but the overall name of this whole file or database is book1. In the MySQL, the same thing happens. We have created a new file or a new database named test1. Now let's say you want to create a table, for example, like this table in here, in which we could insert data, ID, name, email, and password would be assigned to a complete new user. So in here, in the MySQL, what we are going to do, first of all, we create the whole table. So we just say create table, and then the name of the table, let me name it, for example, users. And in here, well, if you look in the users, we have 4 columns: ID, name, email, and password. We could create all the 4 columns in here simultaneously as we create the table itself, or we could just create, for example, 1 column, and then when you want to for example decide to improve it or modify it, and then we could use other syntaxes or codes to do it. So now for just educational purposes, I would want to create my first column. The first column name is ID, as you look at the PowerPoint in here. The type of the ID would be an integer. Every one of these things have a special meaning in MySQL. So in the ID, it would be a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, which is a integer. Then we say it cannot be null. What it means is that every user should have an ID, it is a mandatory column for all the users, so we say not all. And also we say primary key means that this column should be unique, and after that we say auto increment. What these things mean is that this is the primary key and it would go up automatically. So if we haven't assigned any value for an ID, it would increase by the last ID that was in the table. Now at the end we put a semicolon and we hit enter. Now query OK, and it has been affected. Now if we want to just see all the tables in the test1 database, we simply say show tables and we hit enter. As you see, one table has been created. Now let's say we want to see the contents of the user, so we just say describe users in here and we hit enter. As you see, we have one column of this kind. Now after we have created our table, let's say now we want to modify our table and add the other columns. So in here we say alter table, which means that we want to alter the table with the name of users. We want to add a column. You see, it's just like the simple English. Now we want to, the name of the column would be, so what was the next one is the name, so we say name, and then we want it to be of the type of varchar up to 255 characters. So it could be of the type of strings, and strings are at up to 255 characters, and it cannot be null. We don't say primary key in here or auto increment, because auto increment is for numbers, and also primary key is for being unique. We don't need a name to be unique. We may have similar names but different IDs or emails. Now we hit enter and we just say describe users again. To see that the second column has been created, we just run it again, but this time instead of name we say email, and then we just hit enter also one more time. If you look, the last column is password, so we just change the name in here from email to password. Now we hit enter, we again say describe users. If you look, now 4 columns have been created: ID, name, email, and password. Now it's time that we start entering the data into our table and then see how we could read them. So the main purpose of any table is to be able to insert data into it and retrieve data from it.